Mass grave of alleged pro-Gaddafi soldiers has been discovered in a rebel-controlled area of the country, according to British newspaper The Telegraph. The location was swiftly bulldozed after the discovery, suggesting an attempt to cover up the killings. The bodies were reportedly mutilated, adding to recent concerns of human rights abuses by rebels. Such crimes are being swept under the carpet to support NATO's cause in the region, or so says Sukan Chandan, a spokesman for the British Civilians for Peace in Libya movement.
I think really fundamentally there's been a problem the way the NATO nations and their media have related to these so-called rebels. I mean, these rebels have been conducting mass lynchings of black people throughout the first several weeks and months of this crisis. And I raised this directly in press conferences, and the answer was what? Silence. It wasn't covered in the media before because this does not fit the narrative since the 1999 NATO aggression against Yugoslavia, which was we are conducting these wars not for geopolitical control and domination and monopolization of mineral wealth, but for humanitarian reasons. So how can it fit the narrative that these rebels, which NATO and the NATO countries are supporting, are lynching black people, are conducting all the atrocities they're accusing the Gaddafi side of conducting, but actually the rebels are conducting these things? So it doesn't fit the narrative at all.
Well, throughout the course of the 4-month-long revolution against Colonel Gaddafi's regime, Libyans have found themselves surrounded by threats. NATO forces have killed hundreds of civilians during their bombardments, this according to government claims, and rebels have been accused of committing atrocities against their own people. RT's Maria Finoshina explains.
This family hasn't had a walk, quiet and peaceful like this one, for months. They've escaped from the Libyan rebel stronghold of Benghazi to hide in this refugee camp in the west of the country after life in their native town became a nightmare.
It's not safe there anymore. It's become dangerous. And it's not only because of explosions and gunshots. One day people from the government in Benghazi, you call them rebels, we call them terrorists, came to me and told me, we have to arrest your daughter because we know that she supports Gaddafi.
The escape has been long and hard for the women and their family.
I had to hide for some time from them, as they've been searching for me. Then we knew there was a bus coming from Benghazi to Tunisia, the bus with the rebels, for their purposes. We took that bus with our faces covered, and everybody was against Gaddafi on it. We told them that we were also against him, and they let us in. We kept silent until we went to Egypt, and from there, via Tunisia, we were sent here.
Salma's brother, Dr. Sabri, a surgeon, has also fled the city. He says they've made 3 attempts on his life, but he only finally left when he saw a killing.
And they take him from ICU and killing him in front of ICU and hanging his body on the wall of the Jala hospital.
The doctor says people from the National Transitional Council were behind it. This is the rebels' official political body, set up after the revolution in Libya started in the mid-February. Its members are recognized by many countries throughout the world as the only legitimate representatives of Libya.
There is no other opinion than their opinion. So? You must be with them or you are against them. They talk about freedom and democracy. There is no freedom or democracy. They just want to power.
The refugees here say they now finally feel safe, but it's not that safe from this side of the front line either. These people have gathered in the west of Tripoli to bury those killed in a NATO airstrike, according to Libyan government officials. A bomb landed on a private compound and flattened it, killing 15 people, including 3 kids.
We have been calling for peace and negotiation for months, and no one wants to listen to us. And now we have to pay a very heavy price of casualties, civilian casualties, and also military casualties. I think the time has come for the world to understand that this conflict has to come to an end immediately.
Which is very unlikely to happen anytime soon. The newly dug ground in this cemetery is still fresh, while NATO has already claimed that the operation to protect civilians must go on.
With clashes continuing in Benghazi and NATO intensifying its bombardment of Tripoli, Both eastern and western parts of the country are perilous to stay in, and people are dying on both sides of the front line. Many here on the ground fear that when the democracy the West talks about will finally come here, there will not be enough people left to experience it. Marif Noshna, RT, reporting from Western Libya.
Criminals and barbarians. That's how Colonel Gaddafi called NATO states following a recent airstrike that killed civilians. The alliance has said that it regrets the deaths. But investigative journalist Michelle Collon, who only returned from the war-torn country just a few days ago, told us here at RT that innocent lives mean nothing to the coalition that's only in Libya for financial gains.
They have killed more civilians than the losses from the initial problems. They have killed more civilians than NATO bombings. So the real idea is not protect civilians. The real idea is to achieve the economical, strategical interest of the West, USA and Europe. I mean the oil. I mean the financial reserves of Libya. I remind that the USA is a bankrupt country, and also preventing that Gaddafi would be a sort of alternative to the IMF, some bank for African development. The whole idea is to make the public international opinion accept the idea that NATO is the cup of the world and that NATO has the right to make wars where they want. We visited people in hospitals and we saw victims, and indeed the civilian population is attacked. That must be very clear. It has nothing to do with humanitarian war.